The first thing you notice is that 𝕭is whittling away at the lantern stand. But why is he doing this? Some have suggested that he is making his own lantern, unlike Matt, who has to steal to be able to buy it from the peddler. But I doubt that. It's very likely that 𝕭𝖊𝖆 supplies all of the town's lanterns. It seems like the kind of goods that a peddler will be selling. He would have to know all the local customs and traditions of the different peoples of Andor. The addition of lanterns to the Beltane ceremony is curious. There are already in-world ceremonies that have lantern lighting as an aspect of them, such as the Festival of Lights. So does that mean that we will never see these? It's interesting. People from different regions having different customs that have the same core implements. It's very much in keeping with the phenomenal world building of the Wheel of Time. It's also worth remembering that the Beltane ceremony as featured in the show is kind of different from the books. In the latter, it's very much a spring festival. It's fun and airy. Games and competitions of skill and strength take place. It's a grand celebration of life, the dancing around the pole, just an all-round good time. Here we have an additional component. It has become a moment to remember the dead, to commemorate the lives of those that have been lost to sleep. It's a great change that introduces us to the core themes of the series, death and rebirth, and the wider workings of the Wheel of Time. It also has dialogue that will become very important or relevant to certain characters in later seasons. So with this change, the scenes are somber and sad. And so here we have 𝕭. Look at his face, and you will see that his eyes are red-rimmed. His body language shows how much sorrow he is feeling at this moment. Even the fact that he talks to Egwene about curry, he brings her up seemingly out of nowhere. I mean, she's just bringing him breakfast. This shows that curry is what he's thinking about in this moment. If you're curious about 𝕭𝖊𝖆, her life, how these two met and fell in love, there's a video I made about the life of Tamlin. On the table, very close at hand, there is this smoking pipe. You notice that in other scenes, many of the Elmont fielders have pipes or a smoking pipe with, well, the Wheel of Time version of that. It's called tabak, and it's a major produce of this region. In fact, when people think of the two rivers, two things come to mind immediately: wool and tabak. Two rivers tabak, and it's a highly sought after good because, well, it's just so darn good. They refer to curry's eyes as being blue, and then they reference Rand's eye color as being similar. This is one of the features alongside his red hair that really make him stand out as an outsider. One of the things that makes us identify him as, well, the Dragon Reborn. If you haven't read the books, it's never a mystery who Moiraine is looking for. We know it's Rand right from the beginning. As an aside, Rand's eyes are described as blue-gray by different characters, and I discovered a while back that hue is called livid, which is why I called my Wheel of Time song parody submission last year Livid Eyes. Plus the name Livid just describes the Dragon Reborn to a T, especially in later epochs of his life. The sound design features barking dogs, which you see in this scene. It's a small detail that I like, love, appreciate. You see, you can hear children playing in the background, the faint sounds of metal hitting metal. There's people engaged in some conversation, and the chirping of birds. The talking is muffled, and I really couldn't make anything out, which is the point. The fact that Egwene brings 𝕭 breakfast out in the open is kind of interesting. We get to see the use of this area. if you look closely at the design of the town, there's this open space in the middle, sort of like the town center, and it's called the village green. There is a tree at the center of it all, and you see people at different stalls or sitting arranged or tables all over the place. 𝕭will also set up his shop here. So it's kind of interesting to see the interactions between the villages here. You'll notice how much of a role the inn plays as a social gathering place. Small town life. So the green really does play a similar role. The last and most pertinent note I have on this is the breakdown of Tam's and Egwene's conversation. Tam talks to her about death, comparing it to a wound. A clean wound, he says, even if it's 3 times as deep, heals better than something rugged, something messy and more. We and Egwene both come to realize that he's making a subtle reference to her relationship with Rand. He probably knows she's going to want to become a wisdom. Spent 5 minutes with Egwene and you know her ambitions. And he knows what that means for them. So he's essentially telling her not to string Rand along. Clean break is best. This conversation, of course, spurs her to seek Rand out, and we have that really pretty and heartwarming scene with them looking out at the mountain ranges. Of course, we know after watching the first season how messy their relationship becomes. The whole entry is just about them coming to face with this thing between them. Rand learns that he has to let go of her, and Egwene that she must not let her affection for Rand limit her from going after the things she wants. And Egwene wants a lot. She's so, as I said, ambitious. That person who wants to know everything, to become more dangerous and inspiring all at once. And she does do great things going forward. Great things. Another reference is a wound 3 times as deep compared to one that is messy and rugged. Wounds play somewhat of a significant role in this story. It's an allusion, of course, but I won't say more because, spoilers. The fact that Tam is the one who says these words is also significant because he plays a major role in helping someone deal with wounds later on. Interestingly, we learned that the Winespring Inn burned down a long time ago and that Egwene spent a brief period with the Althors. I wonder if we'll see any more references to this in the future. What do you think happened? You considered that maybe some people in the village suffered some grievous injury or losses, death, but Tam is a bit too blasé about it, so it makes me rethink that. It's also funny that at the end of this episode, the Winespring Inn burns down, so neat reference. That also is different from the books, but we don't mind that change much. So there we have it, my breakdown of the Wheel of Time deleted scene that was released recently. I like it, like I do a lot of these things. So what did you think of it? What are your theories? What do you think I missed that needs to be added? What more deleted scenes would you like for the show to release? After thinking about this, personally, I would want one of Moiraine convincing the boys to come along, because that has always felt like a very junky or there's a weird tone to that scene when they're just leaving and you're like, wait, how? So I would want to see the conversation between Matt and the girls, his sisters, as he says goodbye, and his particular reason for leaving, since it becomes relevant later on in the story. That episode where he's like, I don't want to go to have alone, I just want to go back to my sisters. And you immediately think, well, why did you come along then? How were you convinced to come along on this journey? So that is one scene I would want them to release. It just adds more depth to the story, I think. That's it from me. I'll see you in my next upload. May you always find water and shade.